book mainly just covers um, printing and things like that. Just the straight hello world, and chapter 2 actually includes the format function, but I just included both of them in chapter 1. But chapter 2 has a little bit more, and I'm going to explain some of the stuff that we did earlier. So if you look up here where I've got first name and my variable and it equals to something, so anything inside of these quotes right here, even if it's single, or in the case of this bottom one here where it's double at the top and single on the bottom, these quotes, anything inside of it is called a string. So strings can just store a series of characters. They can be letters, numbers, doesn't matter. Just wanted to clarify what that was actually called. Since we already went over how to capitalize, I'm going to go to the next part of this book, which is creating a new line or creating a tab with a string. So let's say that you've got a message that you want to display. Let's say if you're playing a video game, right? Sometimes they might have message of the day. So you can have message of the day as your variable. Most people would abbreviate it to MOTD. But we'll just type it out so you guys can see I don't want to use abbreviations for those who might not know it. So let's say you want to type welcome to our server as your message of the day. Just a simple message. Now, and then if you want to add on to this message, let's say you've got a really long one and you've got message welcome to the server, and let's say you got another line you want to put in. So one thing you can do is so if we go ahead and print, so if you put this plus equals sign at the end, oops, oh, I'm hitting caps lock, plus A. So what this does is it just appends on to this previous message. So you'll have we'll go ahead and print it. So if we print message of the day, you can see here, it doesn't put any spaces in between them. It just automatically conjoins the two. But let's say you want to have a new line. So to do that, you would put a backslash and then N. So you can see this one lights up purple. So whenever you type message of the day now, you'll see message of the day, welcome to our server, have fun. So /N is how you create a new line. Let's say you want to make this just a little bit different, so you wanted to put a tab in front of it, so it's going to be a little bit of space, but after message of the after have fun or before have fun, you put a /T. That'll put a tab. So you can see here it does it this way, but if we put the new line in, it puts welcome to our server, have fun. And those are just two other ways you can format text. Let's say you've got someone's input a username. We're going to look at removing spaces in messages. So we're just going to type one username equals an awesome guy 54. Let's say he accidentally puts a space, right? So that would be difficult to read if you're trying to store usernames and things like that, because the space it's invisible. It's just automatically. So whenever you want to store data and get rid of it, you can. It's called stripping. So if you do username here, if you print out the username and then you do a let's say username. One thing you can do to get rid of the spaces on the right, you can type rstrip and use this function called r for right strip, and it'll remove the space. So obviously you can't see it, but let's say if we had a T here, and let's do it without so you can see the difference. So it has space T. Well, it's still not going to work because you still can't see the other side. But let's put a space in the front now. So we'll do username again, so you can see we've got awesome guy with a space in front of it. But if we type left strip, it'll remove it from that. So this just removes spaces where they don't belong. And one final thing you can do is, let's say we want to, for some reason, awesome guy is really weird and you put a space before and after. Well, if you just get rid of the L and just type strip, it'll get rid of both sides, left and right. Any empty space, it'll go ahead and remove. So that is how you can remove spaces whenever you don't need them from either usernames, passwords, just different things like that. All right, we'll go ahead and continue on to numbers now. So numbers you can store numbers as strings, that's not a problem, but sometimes you want the number to be stored as an integer or a float. So the difference in an integer and a float is integers, let's say here, age equals 27. So I'm 27, so I'm going to print my age. So if you do this, it prints the number 27. So integers are basically just whole numbers. If you're looking at things like, let's say real age, so let's say I'm 27. Oops. And I won't do real age. Let's just do something simple like division. Let's do a quick division. So if you do 12 divided by 4, you can see here it puts 3.0. So anytime you divide, you're always going to get a float. So a float is a number with the decimal point after it. So floats are used for decimal points and things like that, but integers are just simple whole numbers. And both of these can be stored by variables. So division, you can name it whatever you want. So I'm going to show you how you can store multiple variables. So let's say you have x, y, you're doing a math problem. You got x, y, and z. And you can store multiple variables all at one time. You just have to put the commas in the right place. So, oops, unlike I did. So the first one we're going to put is 6, the second one's going to be 7, and the last one's going to be 8. So now if we print x, we'll get 6. But if we print x, y, z, we'll get 6, 7, 8. So these variables just can be stored. You can assign multiple variables at one time. You don't have to assign them all, x equals 5, z equals 4. You don't have to do that. You can assign multiple all at one time. Excuse me. So let's say you want to add these, right? So if you're storing them as integers, which integers will be stored as these little purple numbers here. Let's say we want to do print x plus y. So whenever you do that, the computer automatically knows, okay, these are two integers. Whenever it looks at the variables, they aren't strings, so it knows, okay, I need to add x and y together. So it automatically goes and puts 13. Let's say you want to print x plus y times 8. Oh, sorry, times z. So this follows the order of operations. So 13, or wait. Sorry, I haven't. It'll be 8 times 7, and then it adds this. So the order of operations, PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. These follow the same rules. You can put parentheses in, and it'll multiply them differently. So 13 times 8 now instead of 8 times 7 plus 6. So this will do 6 plus 7, then times 8. So it follows the same rules. You just have to make sure you're putting your parentheses in the right place if you're going to be doing, requiring the rules of PEMDAS. One more thing we're going to look at is called commenting. So comments are really good for programs to tell, basically if someone looks at a program, let's say you've got a bunch of different lines of code, it might be hard for them to read it. So the first thing you can do for a comment is you put a pound sign and then say what that line of code that you're about to put in does. And it might be for a line, it might be for a block of code, it could be for multiple blocks of code. It's basically whatever you want, but it's really good to define what you're doing in comments so people who read your code understand what that code is supposed to be doing. So let's just say this comment says this says hello, so print hello. So you can see here the comment doesn't show up. It's just for people that are looking at the code to understand. It doesn't. No one in the program even knows it exists. They just know that it's saying printing a word saying hello. Okay. Oh, and I'm just going straight from this book, by the way, just straight from Python Crash Course. I'm on page 30 right now. The last thing it talks about is it's called the Zen of Python. Basically, I don't think it works in the actual text editor. Let's see here. Import this. Oh, it does. So the Zen of Python is basically the rules of Python. It's saying not necessarily specific rules, but it's just the right way to do code. So beautiful is better than ugly. So make sure your code is organized, not all jumbled up. Explicit is better than implicit. You want to explicitly define everything. You don't want people to infer anything like that. Simple is better than complex. Complex is better than complicated. So you might have to work with programs that are pretty complex, but you don't want them to be overly complex where it just gets confusing and complicated. And this is just a bunch of different rules or good ideas to go by and examples of what you should follow whenever you're doing coding. One final thing I want to do, let's see here. I'm not sure if Twitch actually shows it, so we'll find out in just a second. I'm not really a big fan of how the Twitch, the main Twitch broadcaster, you don't advertise your entire screen, you just advertise what you want, a full screen application. Display entire monitor. Oh, okay, there we go. This is what I've been looking for. So this, you can actually see my Twitch stream going up, so I'm just going to minimize that. So if you go to view, one of the things in Python is, I mean, you've got all of this space, right? We can go all the way through the entire screen. But one of the things that people like to do in Python is to keep your maximum character limit to 80 characters. So if you go to view and then go to, I believe, well, we'll talk about indentation first. So indentation, you want to make sure whenever you hit tab, it does 4 spaces. Because 4 spaces is required whenever you go to functions where they require loops and if statements and things like that. We haven't gotten to those yet, but this is just some good tips. You want to go to view, indentation. You want to make sure that indent using spaces is turned on. And you also want to make sure that your tab width is 4. So this means whenever you hit tab, it'll indent 4 spaces. Let's see here. There's actually one more thing I'm wanting to show you. Ruler. Okay, here it is. So if you go to ruler and you turn it on, the standard is 80. So whenever I turn it on, you see this line generates here. I'm not sure if it'll actually show on the stream. It might be very vague. Let's see. Yeah, you can see it a little bit. So this line here is where if you're typing out code, you don't want it to go further than this line. If you get here, you should probably just go ahead and hit enter and drop down a line. We won't be running into that problem yet, but later down the line when we're writing out longer code and trying to do more things, we're going to be seeing stuff like that. Alright, and that is it for chapter 2. Tomorrow or later today, depending on what I do, if I get bored, I might go on to chapter 3, which is lists, and it's basically just listing items and manipulating lists and things like that. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.